There are two general types of bats in the world, megabats and microbats. Megabats eat fruit. They have large eyes, pointy faces, and they can have wingspans of up to 5 feet. Almost none of the megabat species uses echolocation. But microbats, that's another story. Microbats are not surprisingly small in comparison, with wingspans typically under 1 foot. They have flattened faces with little eyes and large ears. These are the insect-eating bats, and they do a great job of it. A little brown bat can eat 1,200 mosquitoes an hour. They also eat insects that are agricultural pests, which, according to Catherine Puckett at the U.S. Geological Survey newsroom, saves the U.S. between $3 and $57 billion every year. Some people think that bats are blind, but that's not true at all. Bats have eyes and can see perfectly well in the presence of light, but because they are nocturnal and spend a lot of time in caves, they've developed this system called echolocation to help them navigate and find their food. When bats echolocate, they make squeaks using their larynx or voice box. These squeaks are really high-pitched because high sounds have waves that are quite close together, and that's helpful for echolocation. The sound waves go out, they hit the objects around the bat, and they bounce back as an echo. Bats are specially adapted to understand how changes in the sound of the echo can tell them about the objects around them. They can read the sound waves. Echolocation gives bats very detailed information about the size, shape, texture, and movement of objects around them. Think about how tiny a mosquito is flying on a dark night, and imagine finding it and catching it using the echoes you hear bouncing off it. Pretty incredible. Humans can hear in the range of about 1 to 15 or 20 kilohertz, and bat calls are much higher than that. Luckily, we've developed technologies that can help us hear the ultrasonic frequencies made by bats. Bat detectors are acoustic machines that use special microphones and electronic components that lower the high-frequency sounds made by bats to a range that we can hear. Some of these outputs can be recorded and digitized to create a visual representation of the sound. This moving picture of the frequencies is called a spectrogram. Bat detectors can range from simple handheld devices to larger complex devices that can be left out to monitor unattended in the field. There are 4 basic types of technology used in bat detectors, and I'll just go over them quickly. They are heterodyne, frequency division, time expansion, and direct recording. Some detectors use only one of these technologies, but others combine them in one device, and this offers the users a number of different options depending on the conditions where they're recording. So why do people use bat detectors? Since humans can't hear bat echolocation calls with our ears, bat detectors open up a whole new way of studying and learning about bats. People use bat detectors in education and interpretation programs at nature centers and schools and parks. They use bat detectors in scientific research, in studies ranging from learning more about echolocation itself to doing species identification and population counts, tracking their patterns of distribution, and monitoring bats' activity levels. People use bat detectors for rescue work when releasing a bat into the wild after rehabilitation. And people use them just for fun. Listening for bats in the backyard or while on vacation is an enjoyable pastime for bat enthusiasts. Here are some of the strengths of bat detector technology. 1. They are cost-effective. 2. They're non-invasive. They can be used for surveying and species identification without having to capture bats, or doing roost inspection, which can interfere with hibernating bats and the delicate ecosystems they inhabit. 3. They can be set in automatic mode and left in the field to collect data unattended. 4. They can be used to engage the public for education. 5. They can aid bat rescue organizations in release efforts. And 6. They can be combined with other study methods to provide a more complete picture. Here are some of the weaknesses of bat detector technology. 1. Different types of detectors have varying degrees of effectiveness in different conditions, so you really cannot compare data from different detectors without taking this into account. 2. Even the best bat detectors can give inaccurate or incomplete data due to the highly variable nature of the sounds that bats make during echolocation. 3. Bat detectors are not 100% accurate for species identification because some echolocation calls sound really similar even among different species, and some species cannot be identified reliably by their calls. And 4. Inaccurate data could result in wrong management decisions, which could have significant conservation implications for bats. Here are some examples of bat detectors used in scientific research. A team of scientists led by A.M. Adams in 2012 compared 5 commonly used bat detectors and analyzed their capacities. Using a combination of live bat monitoring and manufactured sounds, the team concluded that not all bat detectors are equal. Some are better at capturing higher frequency ranges, and others are better at low frequencies. Distance from the subject and angle at which the detector is placed were examined with varying results. The outcome of their study concluded that comparing data sets collected using different bat detector types and brands would not result in accurate conclusions due to the high variability in the data collected. Adams and her team suggest that research studies be designed with this variability of data sets in mind, and when sharing results, it is important to include as much information as possible about the type of device used to collect data and its settings. M. Matos and her team of scientists in 2013 studied the reliability of using bat detector recording devices set to the automatic mode in the field. Their methods involved setting up 2 identical bat detectors, with one set on automatic and the other used manually by a field scientist. Although the use of automatic mode detectors is a common practice and often necessitated by logistics, the results of their study showed significant differences in the data collected. The detector in manual mode registered more bat passes and species than the detector in automatic mode, even though the identical detectors were operating simultaneously side by side. They repeated their data collection in 5 different habitats and for 23 nights, but each time the data from each of the bat detectors showed differences. M. Matos and her team recommend using automatic mode detectors with caution, since the results could be biased by this passive monitoring method. Here is an example of a way scientists are using bat detectors to promote bat conservation. Wind farms kill huge numbers of migrating bats. As our quest for alternative energy grows, the consequences of these new technologies will be revealed, and we must minimize their impact. T. Weller and J. Baldwin conducted a study in 2012 that tracked the numbers and activity of bats in conditions similar to those at a wind farm in Southern California. They monitored at varying heights, wind speeds, times of night, temperatures, and seasons. Their data can be used to predict bat presence at wind farms to improve the ways those farms can alter their practices to better benefit bats. A final example of scientists using bat detectors to support conservation took place in Australia, where gold mines create hazardous wastewater conditions. S. Griffiths led a team of scientists in 2014 to research the impact cyanide concentrations at gold mines have on bat populations. Using echolocation bat detectors, they tracked the activity of bats in the airspace above 2 wastewater bodies to assess how much the bats use the water and are at risk of harm. They found that the bodies of water do serve as bat habitat, and bat buzz calls were recorded, indicating that they were feeding and drinking at the wastewater sites, thus putting themselves at risk of cyanide toxicity. The team recommended capping cyanide concentrations in gold mining wastewater sites as a good practice to protect all wildlife that could come in contact with it, including the bats. Even if you're not a research scientist, you can detect bats too. Find a bat program at a local park or nature center, and you may be able to hear bats echolocate with the help of a bat detector. You could buy a bat detector for home use, or make your own. There are bat detector kits available that give materials and instructions to make your own bat detector. You could participate in a citizen science program. There's one going on right now in the state of Florida, where citizens are loaned bat detectors to use in their yards to listen for the rare Florida bonneted bat. The backyard survey results will be added to data collected by scientists, so the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission can get a better understanding of the statewide population of this rare species. If you don't live in Florida and there aren't any monitoring projects in your area, you can still participate in bat monitoring online with the Bat Detective. A part of Zooniverse, a collection of web-based citizen science projects, Bat Detective asks the public to listen to and help classify bat calls from their large library of pre-recorded calls using their home computer. The goal of the project is to create an automated identification program, but they're also engaging interested people in conservation work in a way they wouldn't otherwise be able.